Okay. My name is Carrie Snyder. When I was sent to Circle of Hope in 2014, I went by Carrie Reeves. I was sent there because I was seeing a 19-year-old and because I had sent him pictures and I was 14. It was considered child pornography. And so, in order to not go to uh, they were gonna send me to prison, not juvie, for
You were
4 years. Yeah,
Why
for 4 years.
you? Because you were the child.
I don't know. That's what the DA was gonna do.
That's so weird.
Um, I didn't even know that I was gonna be the one to get into trouble, but I did because I was protecting the guy, even though he was 19, he was an adult. I was 14.
Yeah.
He was my first. I had no idea about any of that. Um, but I protected him, and because I knew the word consensual, it got him, protected. But the DA was just like, well, we have to charge someone, so they ended up going after me.
That's horrible. I'm
It,
sorry.
yeah, it was horrible because my I was going to counseling and I had done a pregnancy test, but it came out negative because it was the day after. They had found out that I was sleeping with him. And then literally the day before I was supposed to have another pregnancy test was when I was sent to Circle of Hope. And so, upon meeting your family, your mom and your dad, um, I mean, they seemed okay at first, but whenever they were sitting me down with my mom and my aunts and uncles, 'cause they ended up loading me up and didn't even give me a choice. They chose for me. And they told me that I was going to be there for at least 2 years. Um, because I was copying an attitude, your dad automatically was just like, if you don't stop, I'm going to restrain you. And he was like, if you think I'm afraid to do it in front of your family, guess again. And he was telling me how to sit, and I needed to stop. I needed to unfold my arms. Basically, already treating me like shit. Sorry, I don't know if I can cuss.
Well, okay. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah.
um, After all that, I mean, everything was fine, I guess. I mean, I had to adjust, but immediately, I started asking questions like, because, I'd never been in a girls' home before. I didn't know all the rules. And so, of course, I was going to ask, like, okay, how do you keep all the girls here? Like,
Yeah.
do you lock the doors? And so, me asking those kinds of questions got raised the suspicions. And this girl, Lorianne, she ended up becoming like a black shirt, I think. And so she came up with the plan. Um, Audrey was our dorm mother, and she was in on it, and so was everyone else. And so Lorianne was like pretending to be my friend, and she ended up, getting me to say on paper that I was going to run away. So immediately the next day, I'm pulled into Brother House's office, and I am now, instead of what was it, an orange shirt new to a
I think you
neon.
had in your orange. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I was already pissed off at the fact that I had to be watched going pee, but now it was just like, I had like two people on me at all times after that. Instead of just one person, there was two because they thought that I was literally going to run away.
And that was basically someone else's idea of running away, and then you were taking. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like a good idea and I was all for running away, but it wasn't my idea.
Exactly. Yeah. You were just going along with it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so after that, it took like a week or so. I gained their trust back and, I tried to stay on their good side. I mean, I there's not much you could do. I mean, waking up every morning and getting yelled at, screamed at because you didn't make the bed right. It's because that's what we get to do every morning. I mean, the people that were pink shirts, they kind of treated you like crap, but so did the staff. It didn't matter if, you were new. It was you either fall in line or you're going to be treated like crap like the rest of us.
Yeah. Were you a favorite? A favorite? No. Were you basically, because of the attitude you gave, you were basically one of the troubled ones when you got there, probably? Or,
Kind of. I
mm,
mean, in a way, after the first like month, I kind of laid low. I mean, I wrote letters to Brother House, whenever one of the girls ticked me off. And, whenever there was allegations from Brandy Barlow, about Brother House, I was playing the game. I was so sad and so emotional
yeah.
because he was, under allegations. But the moment that I was able to talk to someone about what was going on, I let it all go.
Good.
And,
Yeah.
they still treated me good after that. But it was kind of just like, I told them because I seen a 9-year-old little girl being shoved in the dirt face first because she was tired, and we were working in the little garden. It
Yeah.
was summer and it was so stinking hot. We didn't have water outside,
No, because
and we had, yeah,
and if you complained about not having enough water, they would force you to drink too much water to the point of you barfing. Yeah.
yes. I mean, I kept my mouth shut because I watched other girls, open their mouth and then they would get punished, and it's just like, what the heck? But it was so we at first we all were a part of the girls whenever they got restrained or had to do exercises. None of the girls had to turn away, go upstairs, we all watched this happen, and we had to sit there and endure the girls screaming and crying. And then after those allegations, um, he wouldn't allow anyone to watch what was going on because he knew
Yes.
that, yeah, he knew what he was doing was wrong, and he didn't want to, slip up anymore and give anyone else fuel to say, well, he did this, he did that. So he made sure that no one could witness what he was doing
Yeah.
and what he was allowing staff members to do to us.
When you were there, where you said staff members, when you were there, what were there? How many other staff members were there?
Like 6, I think.
Oh wow. Okay.
It could have
Wow.
been 6. I'm pretty sure there was.
That's just like when I was there, the most we had were two, and that was because it was a married couple, and then my brother and his wife, but they weren't really like, yeah, that's just weird.
There was about 6.
And all, okay, so that's like, were they all as abusive, or were they like just compliant? Like, do you,
Zoya and Brandy were abusive.
okay. Was Zoya an adult at the time?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Oh
Yeah.
wait, Nate. So Nate would have been there with you too.
Who?
My brother Nate, was he there? Or
No.
that was before the, okay, okay.
Mm.
He ended up marrying Zoya, so that's why I was wondering.
Yeah, I have only seen him a few times there, but it wasn't enough to where him and Zoya, would talk because Zoya was always um in the kitchen. But then after a while, I forgot what her name is. She's on my Facebook. She ended up training one of the girls to take over the kitchen. Um, yeah.
So, so how old was Zoya at the time, and Brandy? Because I know Brandy, when Brandy got there, she was pretty much staff right away. So,
Mm.
like, was Brandy an adult at this time too?
Mm-mm. Brandy was, I think, the same. I think she was the same age as me, maybe a year older.
Which is
Because
weird.
Yeah, because I know that she was dating Julian at the time. Well, they were, seeing each other with supervised visits from Anna.
Wait, Anna was super Anna, well, she's not little Anna anymore, but like,
Yeah, Anna.
see, I never
Um,
thought that was fair. Like, I don't know why she got that treatment, but like, even when I found out that Julian was dating her, I thought that was just, I
I
don't know,
kind of thought it was wrong.
it's odd. It's
It
very,
was odd because it's just like if she was sent there like the rest of us, what makes her so special? I
and
mean,
then
we're all sent there for some reason, but Brother
why?
House doesn't look down upon her.
Yeah, that never made sense to me either. I don't.
Because when I was sent there, I still had to talk to cops about about what happened. I had to give them my Facebook password, everything. And Boyd and Stephanie would sit in on my conversations, and whenever I had to sit there and tell the cops over and over my story, they laughed.
My parents laughed.
Yes, they laughed because they thought it was all funny. And then whenever they got off the phone, they told me I was disgusting.
You were a 14-year-old girl
I was
that
a
was
14-year-old girl who
with
thought I
a
was in love.
man who was using you. You were a victim. Like, you were a victim, and they were. Uh,
Yeah. They laughed, told me I was disgusting. I think your dad even called me a whore once. And he just made me feel like absolute crap. I mean, I thought that I was in love, I thought that I was pregnant because, I didn't have a period for at least, a month and a half, and I was already supposed to. And they told the cops that they were going to get me a pregnancy test, and they never did.
that was
And
in. Okay.
if I was pregnant, that that baby would not have even survived with how much, emotional trauma and physical trauma that we all had to go through.
Yeah.
I mean, the workouts, you don't get breaks. It's not just, oh, well, I'm tired, I'm gonna sit down. It's no,
You have
you're
to,
gonna work until we can tell you to stop.
or we restrain you, which would have been horrible for the baby.
Yeah, and it was just like, I thought I was pregnant for the longest time, but because I couldn't keep food down, I threw up. It was either, um, I think it was pretty much just from like the stress and the portions that they give you. Like, what the
You don't
fuck?
get good. Yeah, you don't get. Well, and okay, so when I was there, um, I tried my best to make the food decent. But when I came back and visited, I tried that food, and not to be rude, but that wasn't the greatest. It was, and
Yeah,
I don't think I ate. I think I rarely ate because of the hamburgers were like overcooked, like burnt, and the hot dogs were gross.
yeah. My first meal that I had there was, I think it was, some type of sandwich. Um, it might have been a burger. I don't remember. I know that it was a sandwich, and then they had like a salad and something else, and then in the morning it was biscuits. Oh God. Mm-mm.
Dude, I love biscuits and gravy, but when I went back and visited, I think it was Saturday morning breakfast. I think it was that. I don't. I think that's when they had like like the eggs, the bacon, and like the biscuits and stuff. That was really sad. I was really sad. I was ashamed of the biscuits that I saw.
Yeah, so I went there on Valentine's Day.
What?
So the day after was whenever I had food. I don't remember when Valentine's Day was in 2014, what day that was. I just know on Valentine's Day is when I went, and then they tried to get me to eat food that night, and I was like, I'm good. And then the next morning I was eating breakfast, and the biscuits, I was trying to eat as fast as I could because the other girls were like freaking done. They just sat down, threw it all in their mouth, and then they were done. And I'm sitting here just trying to get done with one biscuit. Then some girl gets in trouble, and we all have to push. And so I'm sitting there with food in my mouth, freaking out because I don't know what push is. And then Zoya is in my face and she's just like, I told you to push. And I'm like pointing to my mouth. And so then she's just like, get down and push up position. And so I do that. And we're there for at least like 30 minutes. And so I'm trying to not choke on my food. And then finally we're allowed up, and it was a freaking mess.
I'm sorry, dude. Yeah. Especially with food in your mouth. Like you could have choked and died.
They
That would have
didn't
been
care. They did
no, they
not
don't.
care.
They don't care. And I'm surprised that no one has died, to be honest. I am surprised that no one has been severely injured to the point. I mean, Caitlin McCurdy was one. She ended up, I don't know if you were there for her, but yeah, she
Yeah.
ended up having to go to the hospital. She would have died that day. I don't know what it was, by like the grace
I
of whatever, they are being saved by something. And it's stupid because it's like all like a lot of people could die. A lot of people could die. Like even Rachel could have died.
Rachel was so abused when I was there. I mean, yes, she was staff, but the poor girl, I mean, she was constantly working. She was mistreated. There were some times that I seen her in push up position, like for at least 2 hours.
When I
And I
was
mean,
there, oh, sorry, go ahead.
hmm,
Oh,
what?
I was just gonna say when I was there, like I remember the whole 45 acres. They were cleaning out the one horse pen, and she would be in push-up position all day. And if they would move from one pen to the other pen, she would have to get up and walk, and then just go get right back in push-up position in the next pen. Like she was horribly picked on, horribly picked
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah, and then there was another girl. She had some mental issues. I felt bad for her. Um, but she was always picked on too, and it's just like this girl has special needs and she's here. Like, you know, I mean, I felt bad for myself that I was here, but whenever I seen Rachel and I seen this other girl, I was just like, what kind of a parent just sends their special needs kids to a monster like this? I mean, yes, he puts up a front. They all do. They put up a front and say, "Oh, we're just family." But after a while, it like once that newness fades and the cameras and your parents leave, you see the real side of them come out.
Their family was not treated good either. So like they
I seen Julian. He's had black eyes. Um, I kind of got picked on because when I was there, I had a crush on Julian. And at that time, I was already a yellow shirt. I had to lose so much weight in order to be a yellow shirt. That was pretty much just like the condition of me being a yellow shirt was I had to lose weight. I mean, I was like 100, maybe 50, 70.
how
Let's,
how long were you in an orange shirt for?
um, 2 months. No, 3 months. I was orange shirt for 3 months.
That's horrible. And it was all because you had to lose weight.
Yeah, at first it was because, I goofed and I wanted to run away, and then it was I was too big. They didn't have yellow shirts that were in my size. And so, I mean, I had lost already like a ton of weight, but they wanted me to be skinny
Yeah,
in order.
yeah.
And Brother House was just like, he asked my dorm mother because Audrey ended up, um, I don't remember what happened to her. Um, I think she goofed, and so she got not. Oh yeah, she was a black shirt. She got knocked down to a black shirt, and so Lorianne became our dorm mother. And so he asked Lorianne. He was like, "Did she already what was it? Do all her? You had to like read Bible verses
Yeah.
and say them, and then do the whole Psalms 119 and all that crap." And I never really did. I never really did any of that. And she said, "Oh yeah, yeah, she did. She did, sir. She did to cover her ass." And so I was just like, heck yeah, whatever. And um, finally, a few days after that, we ended up getting me into a yellow shirt, and then that's when your brother ended up taking a notice to me. Um, I mean, I had already had a crush on him, but I couldn't do anything because I was an orange shirt. But when I was a yellow shirt, even Brandy felt threatened by me because, I was a 14-year-old with boobs bigger than hers. And she would like pick on me and make me, because our shirts had to be tucked in, she would make me untuck it some so that you couldn't see how skinny I was and you couldn't tell that I had boobs. And she was just like, you need to do something about that. And I was just like, I'm sorry, what do you want me to do? And that's when Julian took a liking to me, and even Anna knew it. And so whenever we had to be in groups, like she would try and make sure that I was never with Julian if he was doing groups. But one time I ended up getting with Julian. We were cleaning out one of the barns, and we were like, it was Miracle was in one room, Samantha was in the other, and then I was in the other one. I mean, I wasn't being supervised because I wasn't really a lower shirt. Um, and so Julian would, he ended up, it was like the last time I was ever around him. He ended up watching and seeing if the girls were paying attention, and he ended up pushing me up against the wall and holding me by my throat, and he kissed me. And then he tried to put his hand up my skirt, and then he ended up getting off of me because one of the girls was saying something. But then after that, he would try and kiss me some more. And it was almost like he was trying to do more with me, but I wasn't going to allow him to. I mean, I let him do what he did because I knew that if I said something, I thought I was going to get in trouble because no one was watching.
Well, you would have, like, no one would believe you, one. I'm not trying to, but, like, not there.
Yeah.
You take his word over that. Um, yeah, I'm so sorry, dude.
And then, like, he would pick on me, like, in front of the girls, like, to make sure that nothing was going on. Like, he would make you push for no freaking reason. And then if you didn't, then he would threaten to restrain you himself.
Make sure you knew he was in charge, and yeah.
Yeah, he always did that. And it was just like one minute he acted like really sweet, but then um once he did what he did, it was just like, I felt like if I was ever alone with him again, what else was he gonna do? Like, would he push it further?
And at this time, he was dating Brandy, you said?
Yeah.
So,
And
like,
Brandy did not like me because she knew I had a crush on Julian, and um it was like because she knew that I liked him, it was almost like I was a target.
yeah, and just to be clear, just because you had a crush on him and just because you had relationships sexually with someone beforehand does not make what he did okay at all. So um, that pisses me off because another girl has a similar story. And she told me that she went to my parents about it and was basically made to write a letter stating that she lied about it. And so, even if you did go to my parents, they
Well,
would,
see, yeah.
yeah,
So like fast forward after I'm restrained. So no, not I'm restrained. So after that happens, like a week later, something happens, and your dad says we are gonna go through Hell Week. So he sits all the girls down, and by that time, I had already lost, my right to be able to talk to my family because my mom ended up bringing. She was my best friend at the time. She ended up having her in on a phone call, and that was one of the rules, was you couldn't talk to anyone from the outside because they were worldly. So my best friend, who I considered my sister, you know, that's how we grew up with sisters, because she ended up being on the phone call, you know, saying hi and how much she missed me. He ended up taking his anger out on me and
I
ended up,
can't do that.
I
That's
know
not.
I couldn't, but he ended up taking his anger out on me and was just like, because your mom ended up doing this and you didn't say anything, you're going to get your right to talk to your mom away for at least like a month. So I was already pissed about that. And so your mom ended up like looking at me and she was just like, you need to straighten up, lose the attitude. And it was just like, I wasn't doing anything. I was sitting there. Yes, my arms were crossed. It was because I was pissed and hurt. And then on top of that, then we were going to go through Hell Week. And
What's
supposedly
Chloe?
Hell Week, from what we were told, was that you were going to wake up at like 4:30 in the morning every morning, do chores, you were going to work out, you were going to run everywhere, you only had a certain time or a certain amount of time to eat, and then you were exercising most of the day. And I mean, we already had a taste of what his exercises were because he ended up having us out into like a line, 2 lines one time. He had us work out a little bit, and then randomly he was having us, he was just like, if any of you girls want to punch each other, go ahead and do it. And I was just like, excuse me? And some girls ended up actually like punching each other because he was giving them a go ahead. And I was just like, okay. And so it's honestly, I don't think anyone's going to believe me, but unless they were there in 2014, they can probably back my story up because literally he told the girls, he was just like, if you want to punch someone, punch them. And he was like having fun with it. And the girls were just like shocked at first. And then they did it. And then he was just like, okay, stop. And so I'm sitting there listening to him talk about Hell Week, and I'm just like, if he's gonna do this, I'm definitely going to, you know, I'm gonna be in a lot of trouble because for one, I don't exercise that much. I don't like doing that. And for two, I don't think it's right to give another girl the right to touch us. I mean, he already like busted a few girls because they touched another girl. Like, and so your mom ended up singling me out and making me go to the front and push. I
It
got
is
done with
hard
that.
when you get singled out. She is like a complete bitch. Sorry. Yeah.
It was horrible. And so then I do that and I go sit down. And because I'm not, you know, my face hasn't changed, I'm still upset. But even more, she ends up making me push again. And then she has me in push up position. And then finally, your dad's just like, go sit down. So I do. And that's not enough. And so at this point, he's already had enough. And your dad tells me to go change to a black shirt. Like, he has one of the girls go get a black shirt. And then he tells me to take my shirt off and change. And I'm like, I'm not changing.
Not in front of everyone.
No, I wasn't going to do that. And so he was like, change. And I said, no. And so he told everyone to go upstairs into their dorms and wait. And so I stayed sitting down, and staff members stayed. And he ended up coming up to me, and he was like, telling me to stand up. And I'm like, no. And he grabs me and forces me up. And so I slap him, and I'm just like, get off of me.
You slapped your
And
dad?
I did. I don't deal with being touched. And so I slapped him and he got pissed off at me. And so then he told the girls to restrain me. It took all of them to get me down. And I left bruises on Zoya. I remember because I seen her knees. I messed her knees up. And then I messed up Annalicia. I messed her knees up too. Like, she was upset with me, and I don't even remember how bad I hurt Anna, but you know, at that point I didn't care.
No.
And like I ended up fighting with them for a good, 3 minutes until your mom had enough and she came up behind me and, was slamming me to the ground. And then your dad ended up doing his pressure points
Yeah.
and he jabbed me behind the ear and left his nail mark. And I blacked out. I don't know how long I blacked out, but I blacked out. And when I woke up, all the girls were sitting on top of me, digging their knees into my ribs, their elbows, anywhere there was a pressure point, they were on top of me. And your dad was, egging them on to go harder and harder. And
Yeah.
he was even joining in, but then they were going to flip me. And your dad ended up touching me. He touched my boobs. He says it was an accident and it was part of, moving me. But he had his hands there for way too long. He had them in my crotch too. And, I felt just totally,
Violated.
I was. And
Yeah.
so then the next day, it was Sunday, and um, I ended up trying to go to a pastor because I wanted to tell someone what happened because obviously I can't talk to them
Yeah.
because they're going to say what they did was justified.
Mm.
Well, I asked if I could go talk to the pastor, and your mom and your dad were like, it doesn't matter what you say. We're gonna be in the room. It doesn't matter if you don't want us there, we're gonna be in, and we're friends with the pastor too.
Yeah.
So they were basically telling me that I can tell the pastor whatever, but no one's gonna believe me.
Yeah.
And
That I know that. I know that feeling.
and so I just felt like I had nowhere to go. I kind of felt like hopeless until then that night I made the plan on running away. I had enough. I was done. Um, I just had to leave. I didn't know how I was going to, but I made the decision to. And it was the scariest thing I ever had to do.
Yeah. So how did you end up running away?
Well, I woke up, got my Bible and some pictures and my boots. I waited and made sure that everyone was still asleep, touched. And so I slapped him and he got pissed off at me. And so then he told the girls to restrain me. It took all of them to get me down. And I left bruises on Zoya. I remember because I seen her knees. I messed her knees up. And then I messed up Annalicia. I messed her knees up too. Like she was upset with me, and I don't even remember how bad I hurt Anna, but at that point I didn't care.
No.
And like I ended up fighting with them for a good, 3 minutes until your mom had enough and she came up behind me and, was slamming me to the ground. And then your dad ended up doing his pressure points
Yeah.
and he jabbed me behind the ear and left his nail mark. And I blacked out. I don't know how long I blacked out, but I blacked out. And when I woke up, all the girls were sitting on top of me, digging their knees into my ribs, their elbows, anywhere there was a pressure point, they were on top of me. And your dad was, egging them on to go harder and harder. And
Yeah.
he was even joining in, but then they were going to flip me, and your dad ended up touching me. He touched my boobs. He says it was an accident and it was part of, moving me, but he had his hands there for way too long. He had them in my crotch too. And, I felt just totally,
Violated.
I was. And
Yeah.
so then the next day, it was Sunday, and um, I ended up trying to go to a pastor because I wanted to tell someone what happened because obviously I can't talk to them
Yeah.
because they're going to say what they did was justified.
Mm.
Well, I asked if I could go talk to the pastor, and your mom and your dad were like, it doesn't matter what you say. We're gonna be in the room. it doesn't matter if you don't want us there, we're going to be in, and we're friends with the pastor too.
Yeah.
So they were basically telling me that I can tell the pastor whatever, but no one's going to believe me.
Yeah.
And
That I know that. I know that feeling.
and so I just felt like I had nowhere to go. You know, I kind of felt like hopeless until then that night I made the plan on running away. I had enough. I was done. Um, I just had to leave. I didn't know how I was going to, but I made the decision to. And it was the scariest thing I ever had to do.
Yeah. So how did you end up running away?
Well, I woke up, got my Bible and some pictures and my boots. I waited and made sure that everyone was still asleep because I did make a little bit of noise. Um, but
What? It froze or paused? Oh, there we go. Okay.
I did.
Yeah, it
What
paused.
part did I?
You said you made a little noise, but you were trying not to wake them up. Oh, it froze again. Okay, so I don't know why it keeps freezing. Are you? Let's see. Okay. Yeah, it keeps cutting out for some reason. Um, but you were talking about how you ran. You tried not to make much noise. You did make a little bit, but you tried not to.
Yeah, so I tried not to make a lot of noise, but I ended up. Um, I remembered that Zoya um, would set the alarms every night, and so I remember asking how they did the alarms, and they said that once you step out into the out of your bedrooms, that you stepped out and then the alarms would go off. And so my dorm room ended up being from downstairs to upstairs, and um, so I was like right next to the door, and so I ended up just making a run for it. It was mostly adrenaline. I ran from the door. I ran from the bedroom to the door, unlocked everything, ran down the stairs, and I just made the conscious decision to go into the forest because I was like, if I'm running anywhere else, it's running away um from the freeway, and I
Yeah,
knew that that was my way, that was going to be my ticket out.
yeah.
So as soon as I ran, I heard the alarms, all the lights went off. I was like, oh boy. So I ran into the forest, the woods, whatever it's called,
Yeah.
and I hit my face on every freaking branch. It was miserable. And then, I hear I think it was the razor that your dad had.
Oh yeah, the little golf cart looking thing.
Yeah, and then I heard the girls calling for me with flashlights. And so I ended up laying down so that they couldn't see me. I mean, my pajamas were black and then I had a jacket that was black. So I kind of like tried to blend in as much as I could.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I know, I see a spotlight, and then I hear the cop that lives down the road call my name, and that freaks me out because he ends up walking into the woods, but he never walks close enough to me. So I'm laying there, not moving. They go away, and I hear everyone riding around, and so I fall asleep. I get up and I end up going into like a little canal kind of thing, and I lay there and I fall asleep. And um, I ended up I don't even, everyone says that I was gone for 2 days. I don't remember it. But I do know that I was walking around trying to get back to the road because I tried to stay away from the road as long as possible. And
Yeah.
then whenever I thought that I was far enough away, I was like, okay, I need to get back to the road so that I can find my way back to the freeway, maybe hitchhike. And so I ended up doing just that. Um, I ended up hitchhiking a few miles away from the freeway, and this couple ends up picks me up, takes me to the freeway, and then they leave. And so then I'm walking on the freeway when the guy picks me up. I mean, this guy sent off like a lot of weird vibes, and I kind of felt like I was in a dangerous situation. But I ended up basically I told him a lie at first until I broke down and I was just like, I'm just going to tell you the truth. And
Yeah.
so I did. I told him exactly what happened, where I needed to go, and he ended up giving me his phone so that I could talk to my family and tell them that I was okay. And they told him that I needed to go to the police department. And he took me there after he got me like snacks, and he was pretty cool. He ended up taking me to the police department, and that's where I met a sheriff's deputy named Ricky Gooding. He's still my friend to this day.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, and he ended up like threatening me at first. He was like, "If you try to run, I'm gonna tase you." And I was just like, "Okay, that's a nice greeting for someone
Yeah.
you just met."
Yeah.
But I told him what happened, and he ended up trying to take me home that night because after he reported everything, your dad ended up calling, trying to get me back, and he's like, "No, you can't have her back." And he was gonna fill out paperwork so that I could go home with him, so I wouldn't have to go to the. I had to go to a psych ward for kids.
So you ran away?
Hmm.
Why? Just because you ran away?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Was it better
So
than Circle of Hope?
mhm. Oh
Oh,
yeah, it was so much better. Um, yeah, but the initial thing was traumatizing because the sheriff or Ricky told me what was gonna happen to me, and he said, "You need to do what they say because they're not people to fuck around with." He was like, "They're bad people, and they will hurt you." And he said, um, "Just to do what they say." So I'm like, "Okay." I mean, at first I thought it
my
was a joke. Hmm?
talking about my parents, right?
No,
No.
he's
Okay.
talking about the insane or the psych ward.
Okay. Okay.
And so the people from this hospital came, and immediately they handcuffed me, and it was traumatizing. It was just like I felt like a criminal, and it was
Yeah.
just like I didn't do anything wrong.
Mhm.
But I was there for at least 4 days. I mean, I got to talk to my mom freely at that point. But it was only for a little bit. I think they had a time limit on how long you could be on a phone call too.
Did you get to tell her what was going on at Circle of Hope? Did she believe
Yeah,
you?
no,
Mm.
she didn't. To this day, she doesn't believe me. She thinks it's drama. She thinks that I was lying. Um, so whenever I told her everything that happened, I mean, she ended up coming and getting me freely. She wanted me home and stuff, but um, she had to get a court order saying that I could come home, that she was taking custody of me before anyone would let me leave the state of Missouri. And, um, for the longest time, um, like I had nightmares of Circle of Hope. Like when I was in Missouri, I was fine, but when I came home to New Mexico, I had nightmares every night. Like I would wake up screaming and crying because I thought that I was still in Circle of Hope.
Yeah.
And my mom would even threaten me every time like I misbehaved. She was like, I'm gonna send you back to Circle of Hope. And it was just like that was even more traumatizing.
Yeah, because you knew what it was like there.
Yeah, and it was just like, I mean, I escaped, but there was a lot of other girls there that were being mistreated worse than me. I mean, I got restrained one time and I had it. But there was other girls there that was being mistreated far worse than I was. And, they're still there. They didn't it didn't look like they were trying to run away or get away.
Well, like the 9-year-old girl that was there while you were there, she probably would be like 11. Oh wait, no. You were there in 2014.
Yeah.
She's probably like 16 or something now. Still there. I don't know if she's still at Circle of Hope, but still like that's the frightening part is they try everything in their power to keep girls there, and they will tell parents that their child is not doing the program, so they need to stay, and that's
Yeah.
scary.
And it was kind of, like upsetting because I ended up going through my mom's old phone and my mom was in contact with Brandy's mother. And her mother was telling her that this is a good place for me, that, I'll be treated good there, that it's a great program. But then,
Christy, Brandy's biological mother or adopted mother?
I really don't know which one it was, but I do know
I
that it
talked to her.
was one of her moms.
I talked to her biological mother, and her biological mother did everything in her power to get Brandy out. Like she had, I don't know if you were there for this, but she had Brandy diagnosed by a like a psychotherapist, and Brandy she has some mental disability. I don't know what it is, but she should be taking medication for it, and she doesn't. Like Brandy's biological mom wanted her out, so like that's just weird.
Well, one of the moms was saying, because, it could have been her adoptive. I really don't know. But this mom was basically saying that this was a good place for kids. Sorry, baby. And that, you know, it changed her daughter's life. And it was just like, well, that's a freaking lie.
Well, I mean, yeah, it did change your daughter's life. It got your
I
daughter
mean,
for however many more months. It got your daughter free college because my parents paid for her college. It got your daughter a free car because my parents bought your daughter a car. And it's also paying for your daughter's wedding because my parents are paying for your wedding. So, yeah, in a way, it did do your daughter good.
she's getting married.
And then apparently, her and her husband are going to take over Circle of Hope.
Who's Brandy getting married to?
Some guy she met at some guy she met at college. But the thing is, I keep getting messages on TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube saying that it's this girl. I think it's a girl. They're all like, my brother is marrying Circle of Hope's adopted daughter, and I seriously need help because I don't want him to marry her after everything I found out. And I was like, is this real? Like, I don't know if that's real. But I guess his name is Curtis, and she met him at Heartland, and he's now working at Circle of Hope, and her and him are getting married, and my parents are paying for their wedding and honeymoon.
I'm happy for her, but I don't, I feel bad for the girls there.
I
If
feel bad
they,
for her because she's not getting help. She's not getting the help she needs. Like she needs actual medical attention, and she's not getting that. She's
well, yeah, I mean, I feel bad for her in that perspective too, but it's just like, she was a total monster to me and
yeah.
other girls. And it's just like, what happens if she, thinks another girl wants her husband or, is too nice to her husband.
Or what if her husband does sleep with one of the girls because that's happened before? Like you.
Yeah, like what happens? What is she gonna do and try and get away with?
uh, Yeah, no, I've heard horror stories about Brandy. I've never personally met her. I've talked to her on the phone and it's weird.
Well,
But
she's exactly like you would expect a monster to be. I mean, she's nice when you first meet her,
yeah,
and then she ends up showing her true colors, and she's like one of those preppy girls. Like, she's nice, but it's a fake nice, and it's only a nice to get you to do what she wants you to do.
That's what
And if you
Julie.
don't, yeah, and if
Yeah.
you don't do it, then she's gonna punish you. And because she was a favorite, she could do whatever she wanted.
Julian said she could get away. He said that he told her to shut the fuck up once, and he got in trouble. And this was when he was out visiting me, so he was like 16, I think, or like 15 or 16. And he said Dad got so mad at him and he got in trouble for telling her to shut up. And I was like, really? I was like, that's really interesting because like my dad had favorites even over me at Circle of Health, but it was just weird because Julian was always like when I was there, Julian wasn't punished. Like I was the one taking care of Julian. And so like when he like started telling me the stuff that was happening to him, I was like, just damn. And then like he was getting in trouble because of Brandy. I was just like, fuck, never thought that would have ever happened.
Well,
For
see,
their little baby.
he used to complain about Brandy all the time, and it was just like, why are you with me then?
Yeah.
And and then he would turn around, and then he turned around and did that with me, and it was just like, what the heck? Like,
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
but honestly, I don't know. I kind of seen your dad in Julian.
Yeah.
Julian was ended up turning kind of a lot like your dad. He ended up turning into him, and I kind of think that it's because he was being abused. He had black eyes
Yeah.
when I was there. Like I seen him. Well, I never seen him, but I heard him. He ended up getting thrown into, I forgot where we were. We were on the property, of course, but it was like there was some metal. I think it was on like a building or something. He ended up getting thrown into it,
Yeah.
slammed up on it because apparently he did something wrong or he gave him attitude, and it was just like, um, so no one's gonna do anything. This is okay. I mean, I think Julian's the same age as I am.
Yeah. Julian is, I think he'll be 21 this year.
I'll be
And
21 in October.
yeah, October is his birthday too. Yeah. When we first moved to Agape, my dad refused to let my mom spank him anymore because it looked bad on my dad's image. And so like from that time he was like I think 2. And so from that time on he was like not getting spanked or anything. And to be honest, he was a little brat. Like he was the worst kid ever because it was me and Nate raising him because my mom wasn't around, my dad wasn't around. And then my dad would make me and Nate stay up with Julian until 4 o'clock in the morning watching the same stupid movie called Texas Rangers over and over and over. And Julian was like 4. And this movie was about like, it was cowboys and Indians, like cowboys getting scalped and Indians getting killed and stuff like that. And me and Nate would have to stay up watching this movie over and over and over and over with him until finally Julian fell asleep. And so like he never got punished, like never got punished. He would walk around kicking random people. He was just like a little brat growing up. And so like I can see him being a complete jerk as a teenager because for so long he got away with stuff. Like they never corrected him, like never corrected him. And so like when I started hearing all these stories, it just I don't know, it just all made sense. It all made sense because I found out he punched my mom once because my mom punched him. And it was just like a whole cycle of just like my parents abusing him and then him abusing my parents. And so like when the girls were telling me it was happening to them from Julian, I'm like, yeah, I can totally see that. Like I know how I acted. Like I know how I treated the girls there. Like I can't remember every instance, but I know I picked on Rachel. But I don't. It's just sad because I'm like, dude, he's like how old now, and he didn't get out. And unfortunately, there's more than one girl with your story. I'm not trying to take away from your story, but
No.
there's more than one person, and it's like you it validates your story more, if that makes sense in a way. And it's heartbreaking because he was raped. He was raped there by one of their girls, and they did nothing. They didn't get him help. They didn't even put him in counseling with a pastor or anything. And obviously, it doesn't make it okay for what he did, but he continued it and didn't get help. And it's the same with my dad, and it's like it's just a cycle, and it's very toxic. It's very toxic.
Well, see, I ended up, they were gone for like a couple days. I think it was their little trip. And we had to listen to like recordings of like stories or whatever.
Okay.
And one of them triggered me. It was because I was sexually abused as a little girl. And so it triggered me. And so I ended up talking to Brother House about it. I don't know why I call him Brother House.
It's programming. It's fine. Yeah.
And I ended up going to him and I tried to talk to him about it because he used to say that he can be a counselor for you. Like he'll counsel you and help you. And I was just like, I need someone to talk to. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit here and cry and I'm going to get in trouble because I'm crying. And he ended up like not even giving a crap. He was more concerned about like the tapes and he was basically just telling me to get over it. Like he ordered um he ordered to listen to the tape and stuff, like what we listened to, and that was like the end of it. And it was just like he didn't care that, that this happened to me as a little girl. I mean, but the fact that he said he was going to help counsel you, but he was more concerned about what you were listening to more than actually giving you advice or helping you says a lot.
I was sexually molested by my oldest brother, and they did nothing, and I was 5. So I don't know why I don't know. He never got me counseling. He never got any of us counseling. I don't know why he would even think that he could be a counselor for that type of stuff, especially when his own kids were doing it to their kids,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
And
So,
it's just like I even tried talking to your mom, and I
yeah,
mean, she seemed okay at first, but then you saw how wicked she was.
yeah, she's,
Mm.
I don't know, like she's a horrible person. I can't even, like, when I finally came out and told her about some things that happened to me, she's like, um, I'm sorry, Amanda, I wish you would have told me. I don't
Yeah,
know why she thought it would be okay for me to just tell her, because I know for a fact she would never have believed me as a kid. Because when we moved to the first home we worked at, there were some people that were sexually touching me there, and I was like 9, and so I don't know. Like at that time, I didn't know, because my brother was already doing it to me. I didn't know that what was happening was necessarily wrong. I didn't really realize what it was wrong until I was at least 16, and like it was after I ran away, and um, I started like sneaking movies and like stealing things from like Dollar General. So I was watching more movies and like getting more information on sex, and like people can take that away from you and stuff. And so like when I got kicked out at 17 on my way down to Florida, I told my mom what had happened to me, and she's like, I wish you would have told me. And I'm like, for what? Like, why should I tell you? Like, you would have done nothing. Like, you would have, I would have been blamed. Like, it would have been my fault, even though I was a little kid. Like, I would have been blamed. So
yeah. Because I mean, part of the reason why, I was acting out as a young girl is because, I was molested by my stepdad.
yeah.
And
So
nothing was done. And so from that point on, it was just like my own dad didn't really want me, and he proved that. And then, you know, my mom married this guy when I was like 2, and he molested me. And I remember it because, it stuck out to me. And it was like, this is normal, this is okay. Until my mom and him ended up getting a divorce. And, I already had daddy issues because of
yeah,
that. And so, whenever I was 14, my mom ended up buying me my first iPod, and she trusted me. She didn't supervise me. And so that's when I started, like using it to get on like dating sites. And that's how I met the guy that I ended up losing my virginity to, the 19-year-old. I ended up, talking to him, and he basically groomed me.
yeah.
And I mean, I was groomed by a few other people, but it was like I was the only one that I ever met up with. I snuck out of my house, ended up going up um, onto the road, and he met me there and picked me up. He drove around like the first time we hung out, and then the second time, I had more courage to actually go to his house, and it was like that first night. No, the third time that I actually went to his house was when him and I actually did something, and I was drunk, and I ended up passing out, and he was already done, and that's when it was like by that time it was like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I had school the next day, and I had told him I needed to go home. My family, their lights were on, and I knew something was up immediately. And so I tell him just park on the side of the road, and we do. Cops show up immediately. Like, I'm not even joking. Cops surrounded the car. My aunt and uncle ended up coming. They were just like, "Is Carrie in there?" And he was just like, "Yeah." And they took him out of the car, made me get out of the car, ended up questioning me. And like a dumbass, I protected him while he threw me under the bus.
You were 14. You were a
Yeah.
kid. Like, you didn't know better. That's.
Yeah, and they knew pretty much everything that happened because like a dum dum, I had a diary. Yeah, and I did not hide the diary. And so they read it, and the police ended up taking it um, for evidence because I wasn't going to give in and say, well, I did this, with him. Come here. And so they ended up taking that as evidence, and um, they ended up keeping that for, I think actually, they ended up giving it back to me um, my senior year in high school. The police department ended up calling my aunt and uncle because that's the number that they had on file, and they were just like, we're cleaning out the evidence, and we want to know if you want this diary. And I was just like, I don't want it, just trash it.
Yeah.
But they ended up taking it and keeping it, and I don't know. I never relived that. I was never able to live that down. Like for a few years after that, it was, well, I slept with a guy and I got in trouble with the law, and like everyone in my family knew what happened.
It's just so weird that you were the victim and it was turned and you're the one that got in trouble for it. Like, I'm not surprised because that happens, but it's like, you were 14, dude. He was an adult. He was 19. Like, he was old enough to be knowing that what he was doing was wrong. And you
Yeah.
were 14 and groomed into the situation. And even if you knew somewhere inside that it was wrong, you were too young. You were too young to say this was wrong. Like, I remember
Well,
being 14. I remember wanting to be married and out of the situation I was in. Because I had daddy issues. So, like, you were too fucking young, man. Like, I just don't get that. And then you were sent away to a place that traumatized you. It didn't help you. It made the situation worse. And I mean, it's like you can answer this, but it seems like you're doing better now. But when you got out, like, was it an easy, like, you were fine, or was it like a fight? Like,
it was a fight. Um, Mentally, I was screwed up.
you know,
Um, my mom didn't really help me with that because I also had mom issues. My mom and I used to fight all the time. And so it was my freshman year, she ended up getting me a counselor because she had enough.
Yeah.
And so I ended up talking to the counselor, and the counselor ended up like, she actually cared to figure out like the deep problem, and all the other counselors, they didn't. And so she had me tell her like exactly what happened and all that and why. And she ended up doing this kind of treatment thing on me. I mean, it does trigger you. It's like messes you up for a few days. But you have like headphones on and you listen to sounds. And then she'll tell you to go back to like a certain memory of when you were traumatized, when you were hurt. And you picture yourself in that situation, and then you picture yourself as a bystander watching it happen to you. And she'll talk to you and like make sure you're calm, make sure you're okay, and she'll have you describe what's happening. And I had to do that multiple times, like with the circle of hope,
Yeah.
with what happened to my abuser. And I mean, it helped, but for the longest time I was not okay, and I acted out even more, because it was just like I needed help back then, I didn't get it, and I was punished because, I wanted to act like an adult.
Yeah.
And then, um, I mean, now I'm doing fine. It's been a few years, and I'm married now. I'm fine. I'm doing really good. But yeah, for the longest time, I was not okay.
So do you go to therapy now?
No, I don't. Um, I really don't think I need it,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Um, so when you was it easy keeping the relationship when you got out? Like, was it easy like having friends or like even getting a boyfriend or marrying?
Um, keeping getting friends was kind of easy because I make friends pretty easy.
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid to tell anyone what happened to me.
Okay.
I told them, yeah, the first time I had sex, I got punished for it, and this is what happened. And they were just like, well, they wanted to know, if I was pregnant. And I said, I really don't think I was, but at the same time, I don't know.
Yeah.
By the time your mom actually tested me, it was like the last month that I was there. And she had to just make sure that I took the test just to say that she actually tested me.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure she was going to get in trouble if it would have came back that she never did.
Yeah.
And with like relationships, like having boyfriends, I wasn't allowed to have a boyfriend until I was 16, and by then, I had already like talked to a few guys online. Again, the guys that I went to school with, I ended up talking to them, um, trying to see if like we were even compatible. A few of them, they just wanted in my pants, and I kind of wanted to act out, and um, I never had a relationship until I was actually 16. I mean, I wanted relationships because, I thought that, because the first time that I tried to have a relationship, it got ruined, and I was kind of bound and determined that I wanted one.
Yeah.
But I didn't have one until I was 16, and that one was, um, yeah, no, that one was horrible.
It's
Um,
supposed to be when you're a teenager.
yeah. it was like it was a normal relationship, but it was toxic.
Yeah.
And every relationship after that was toxic until I met my husband, and we've been married a year now. And I mean, even this marriage, it's been hard. We have our ups and downs, but um, I've told him about my past, so he knows about it, and he doesn't judge me about it. And that's one thing that, I've always wanted. I wanted someone to be able to talk to and not to judge me for what I used to do, and um, how I acted to
Yeah.
cope.
With your trauma. Yeah. Do you have any good memories of Circle of Hope? I'm always
Uh,
asked the question.
um, there's one. Um, the horses. I
Yeah.
loved the horses. My favorite memory is when we were able to actually bathe the horses. I mean, we weren't really being supervised. I mean, Jillian was there, yeah, but we were all focused on washing the horses.
Yeah.
No one was gonna run away. So that's what we did pretty much like the whole day, and we were like in this small group, so we got to just do that all day, and all the other girls that were in different groups, they had work, and I was just like, heck yeah, like we're getting special treatment, and I don't know, it was pretty fun.
I miss the animals. I think that's like the only thing I miss about that place is the animals. Um, do you know how much your mom paid for Circle of Hope by any chance?
My mom never paid for it. My aunts and uncles chipped in.
Okay. Do you know how much they paid by any chance or no?
No, I'd have to ask them to see how much, because they all chipped in and put it into a bank account for it to be withdrew.
No worries. I was just curious because I know when I was there, people were like paying different prices. So I've been trying to like see what other people have been paying just because.
Well, I do know that my mom did have to pay money. I don't know how much either, but she did have to pay um, in order to take me home, because he wasn't going to allow my mom to take me out of Missouri, even though he didn't have custody of me anymore. The state did. Um, he wasn't going to allow my mom to take me home, so she had to pay him.
However much
And
money
yeah,
in the contract, basically. Yeah, that's what I'm because there's been at least two parents that I know of that were made to get warrants or yeah warrants to get their daughter out, and then they had to pay the remaining balance of the contract to even get their daughter out. So that's why I'm like, it's a
yeah,
pattern. It's like not every girl, but a lot of girls have to like fight in order to even leave, and it's kind of frustrating. But
yeah. It is kind of frustrating because it's just like we're not their kids. Our parents want us home. Give
exactly,
us to our parents.
yeah. Like I don't understand why they think it's okay to do that. Um,
I think it's because we got a paycheck. That's
oh,
where
it
we
definitely
work.
is a paycheck. It's when I was there, they didn't make a lot of money. When I was there, we were living off of donations. But after looking up their IRS forms, they are supposedly making close to $400,000 a year. I'm like, there is no way that they are making that much money and spending it on the girls. If anything, they're taking that money and spending it on them because
Yeah,
the girls are wearing the same clothes that they've been wearing since I was there. And if they are making $400,000 a year, they should have enough to put you guys in extremely nice uniforms.
yeah, and it's just like
Your paycheck is
yeah, like the uniforms that we got were like hand-me-downs, and you could tell they had been worn a lot. And then everything that we came with wasn't ours anymore. I mean, yes, I get sharing, but come on, like stuff like I had a body wash for me. I had a brush, I had 2 brushes, I had some soap for me, and I was made to choose which one that I wanted. I could only get one.
Yeah, maybe
And
it's like, yeah.
yeah, my shampoo and my conditioner, that was taken away, and I had to use whatever other girls used. And they gave me like this little plastic bottle thing, 2 of them for your shampoo and your
Yeah.
conditioner, and you had to use that. And if your shampoo and conditioner, if you were using more of your shampoo than you were your conditioner, you got pushed because you were being unclean. You weren't clean,
But that's
and
normal for
they wouldn't.
shampoo.
Yeah, and then they weren't allowing you to have a razor
Yeah.
for your first, like until you were a yellow shirt, you could not have a razor. And
They used electric
it,
razors when I was there. We were allowed to have the electric
they,
razors and we had to clean it out and it was all shared. Like we had to clean it out and use it between each of them.
oh, that is so disgusting. No, they never did that to us, thank God. But they did check and see if the only thing we were allowed to shave was our legs and our armpits. We could not shave anywhere else. And if we did, we got in trouble. And they were like, and I'm like, so you're gonna physically check us? And they said, oh no, like that was a total lie. Like you looked and seen if a girl, like you could tell if a girl had shaved or not. Because you were actually staring at them through their underwear, and you could tell. And that is what your mom would do, is she would like literally go into the rooms and look at us all while we were getting changed from our showers, and she would see. And if she thought that you had been shaving,
You get,
um yeah, you'd get in trouble, and she'd look at your razor. And it was just like, what business is it of theirs if we're shaving? It's our bodies. I mean,
you couldn't feel sexy. That's why.
no. Like I even had like I was like 14 years old, I don't wear granny panties, and they made you
Yeah.
wear granny panties. Like I had like my mom bought me new underwear, and because it was bikini,
Threw it away.
couldn't have yeah, I could not have it.
Yeah, I remember I bought thongs once and got in so much trouble for it, but it was an accident when I got them. Just grabbed from Walmart like a pack and the cheapest pack I could find, and I got in so much trouble for buying thongs.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it because, it was just like I got in so much, like I didn't get in trouble for it, but that night I ended up taking a shower, and they ended up taking away the whole package of underwear that I had. And so I had to wear someone else's underwear.
No,
Yeah, it was disgusting. And it was just like, I have my own, but I'm still having to wear someone else's.
yeah, that's horrible. Is there anything else you can think of that you want to add?
Mm, not really. Not that I can think of.
Um, like trying to think if there's any other questions. Um,
I mean, I'm just glad I'm able to tell my story because, I've tried to tell my story multiple times to anyone who would listen, and a lot of people would just like brush me off. But now that a lot of girls are coming forward, it's just like people are now starting to listen.
yeah, we had a news reporter. I don't know if I sent you the link too, but we had a news reporter do an article on it, and she only could post what she posted, but as soon as, if they get arrested, knock on wood, hopefully they get arrested, she'll be able to post more like girls' testimonies and stuff like that. So hopefully that will happen and your testimony will get to be read in the local newspaper at least.